The sky over New York was heavy with low clouds that Tuesday morning. Conrad Maggio adjusted the collar of his dark coat as he walked alongside Cordell Rowe, his wife, toward the main gate of Greenwood Cemetery. Their hands were intertwined, a gesture that had become almost automatic in recent years, as if each constantly needed the other to stay upright. Cordell carried a small arrangement of white roses. It was the anniversary of Asia Miller's passing, Conrad's mother, and for 10 years the couple had repeated the same ritual. A silent visit, a few whispered words before the headstone, a brief prayer. That morning, though, something felt different in the air. Perhaps it was the cold, unusual for September. Or perhaps it was simply the invisible weight the Maggio family had carried since that afternoon 7 years ago. "Are you okay?" Conrad asked softly, noticing Cordell had stopped before they even crossed the gate. "I'm fine," she replied with a weak smile, "just breathing." They entered the cemetery in silence. Greenwood's centuries-old aisles housed imposing mausoleums, angel statues with wings stained by time. When they reached the headstone, Cordell arranged the flowers in the vase and wiped the engraved plaque with a handkerchief. Conrad remained silent. He thought of his mother, but he also thought of Muriel Lewitz. He always thought of Muriel. "She'd be proud of us," Cordell said, her voice thick, "of how we've kept going." "We keep going because we don't have a choice," Conrad answered. "We do. Every day we have a choice, and we choose to stay standing." When the wind began to blow harder, Cordell touched her husband's arm. They started walking back toward the gate, this time taking a narrower side aisle where the headstones were older. It was along this path that both noticed at the same moment a small figure standing near a fallen pillar. It was a girl. She must have been 11 or 12. She wore an oversized T-shirt that had probably belonged to someone much bigger, frayed cuffs on her pants, and a worn-out pair of sneakers. She was holding a transparent plastic bag full of crushed soda bottles and pushing a rusty bicycle, missing its fenders, with a crooked wire basket in front. She was humming something very softly. Conrad stopped. Cordell stopped too, but for another reason. She had seen the girl's face before he had. "Con," she whispered, gripping her husband's arm with unexpected force. "Con, look, I see her." It was as if the entire cemetery had suddenly gone silent. The girl, still distracted by the bottles, lifted her face toward the two strangers and frowned. A gesture so specific, so familiar, that Cordell had to lean on a nearby tomb to keep her balance. The eyes were the same, not similar. The same. That hazel-green tone Conrad had inherited from his mother. The small dimple on the left side of her smile, though now there was no smile, only exhaustion. And on her right wrist, exposed by the rolled-up sleeve, a small mark in the shape of a crescent, one Cordell would have recognized anywhere in the world. Muriel had been born with that birthmark. It was there, where it had always been. Conrad, more composed from professional habit, stepped forward and raised his open hands in a calming gesture. "Hey," he said, trying to muster a smile. "Don't be scared, we were just passing by." The girl narrowed her eyes, suspicious. She pulled the bicycle back a step, shielding the bag of bottles against her body. "I didn't do nothing," she said. Her voice was hoarse, dry. "I just pick up what nobody wants. The guard lets me in the morning." "It's okay," Cordell managed to say, approaching slowly. "Nobody's accusing you of anything, honey." "Honey," the girl repeated as if the word were foreign. "Nobody calls me that." "What's your name?" Conrad asked. "Lily." "Lily what?" She shrugged. "Lily, just Lily." "How old are you?" "About 12, I think. The woman at the old shelter said it was 12. "Do you live with anyone? Is there someone waiting for you?" Lily gripped the bike basket. There was a strange courage in that look, a courage that only exists in someone who learned very early not to depend on anyone. "I get by on my own," she answered. "I don't need anyone." "Lily," Conrad said, crouching down to her eye level. "My name is Conrad. This is Cordell. We came here to visit my mother. Listen, have you eaten today?" The girl hesitated. On the streets, she had learned that questions about food were always dangerous. "Yeah, a little. We were going to eat a cheese puff over at the city bakery on the corner. Do you want to come with us, that's all? A cheese puff." "I don't go with strangers," she said finally. "The woman at the old shelter used to say never to go." "You're absolutely right," Cordell answered, relieved. "We can bring the cheese puff here, or you can wait at the city bakery with the owner. He's an acquaintance of mine. His name is Mr. James. You can sit at the front table." Lily considered that. Her stomach, despite all her pride, growled softly. "So okay," she said. "Just the cheese puff, then I'll come back." They walked slowly, the three of them, toward the gate. Lily pushed her bike beside the couple. Cordell wanted to touch her shoulder, her hair, her hand. She didn't. She knew that any wrong move would scare that girl away forever. On the way, she glanced sideways at her profile. Every detail was a dagger. The upturned nose, the slightly pointed ear, the way she pulled the bangs that fell over her eye. There were so many pieces of Muriel in that face that Cordell began to wonder if she was going crazy. They reached the city bakery. Mr. James, a Portuguese man already old, received the strange group with a raised eyebrow, but asked nothing. He served cheese puffs, orange juice, and a glass of warm milk to the girl, who ate as if she hadn't done that in days. She probably hadn't. While Lily ate, Cordell pulled Conrad aside to the corner of the counter. "Con," she said, and now she couldn't hold back the tears anymore. It's her. You saw her wrist." "I saw. She's our girl." "Oh, we can't be sure yet, Cordell. She needs protection. She needs a doctor. She needs a safe place to sleep. That first, then we figure out the rest." Cordell swallowed the sob and nodded. Conrad was like that. Always had been. In the worst moments of that family, he was the backbone. She was the soul. Lily finished eating. She wiped her mouth with the napkin, folded it carefully, and put it in her pants pocket, as if saving it for later. Then she looked at the couple with an unreadable expression. "Thank you, I have to go now." "Lily," Conrad said, "before you go, can I ask you something? Where do you sleep?" The girl hesitated. "Depends on the day." "And today?" "I don't know yet." Cordell couldn't hold back anymore. She stepped forward and, with all the tenderness in the world, placed her hand over Lily's on the table. "Lily, listen, we're nobody to ask anything of you, but there's a good place nearby, a shelter with a woman named Samantha, who's a dear friend of ours. She takes care of the children very lovingly. If you want, we'll take you there. You check the place out, decide if you want to stay or not. If you don't want to, nobody will force you. We'll bring you back wherever you want." Lily looked at that hand over hers. She didn't pull away, she didn't hold it either. She just watched as if that gesture was something old she had seen in a dream but couldn't remember where. "Just looking around?" she asked. "Just looking around." "And my bike?" "It's coming with us." Lily took a deep breath. Then she nodded very lightly. "Okay, just looking around." At that moment, without the girl knowing, Conrad and Cordell made the silent decision to reorganize their entire lives from that point on. They didn't yet know what lay ahead. They couldn't imagine the twists, the discoveries, the dangers awaiting them. As they helped Lily load her bike into the trunk of the car, Cordell took one last look at the gate of Greenwood Cemetery. For the first time in many years, she felt something stirring in her chest. It wasn't hope yet. It was, perhaps, just a whisper. A whisper saying that life could still surprise. They got into the car. Lily in the back seat, her seatbelt carefully fastened by Cordell. Conrad started the engine. Before pulling away, he looked in the rearview mirror and met the girl's gaze. She held his eyes for a moment, and in that moment, he saw something. A shadow, a memory, a piece of someone he knew. Then she turned her eyes to the window, and the car drove off toward a destination none of them could yet see. The Sunrise Shelter was on a quiet street in the Green Hills neighborhood, hidden behind a hedge of red hibiscus. It was an old two-story house with light blue wooden windows and an inner courtyard where the children living there grew basil and chives in old pots. Samantha Brown, the shelter's coordinator for over 20 years, was waiting for the couple at the door. Samantha was a woman in her early 50s, with curly hair pinned in a loose bun and glasses that kept slipping down her nose. She greeted Lily with a calm smile, without excessive warmth, exactly the way Conrad had asked over the phone. "Welcome, Lily," she said simply. "We'll show you everything. If you don't like something, just say so." Lily clutched the bike's handlebars against her body. She looked from Samantha to Cordell, from Cordell to Conrad, and then at the shelter's facade. A faded little flag from a summer fair was dangling from the eaves, forgotten there since July. That detail, so common, so familiar, seemed to make her feel a bit more at ease. "Okay," she said. Samantha led the girl inside. A social worker appeared, introduced herself as Dr. Rachel, and explained to the couple that they would need to give a statement about the encounter, authorize preliminary medical procedures, and above all, respect the girl's pace. "She's not yours," the doctor said with gentle firmness. "Even though the resemblance is strong, she belongs to herself, and that's how we'll treat her." "Understood," Conrad replied. In the days that followed, the couple turned the shelter into a second home. Conrad took work to the car parked nearby and took client calls on the phone between visits. Cordell, a literature teacher at a private school, took a 2-week leave and started going every afternoon. She brought bags with new clothes, carefully chosen not to look too expensive so as not to embarrass Lily. She also brought homemade cakes, butter cookies, and fresh fruit juices. Lily received everything with an odd politeness. She thanked in a low voice, stored the folded clothes under the bed in the shared room, ate only half the cake, and offered the rest to the other children. She didn't hug. She didn't smile fully. She kept a measured, calculated distance, like someone who had been hurt enough to know that affection from strangers could be a debt to pay later. Samantha advised the couple not to push. "Let her come to you," she said, "and if she doesn't come, that's also fine. You're here for the girl, not for your own daughter." That sentence, spoken so softly, was like a slap with velvet gloves. Cordell understood. It hurt, but she understood. Meanwhile, Dr. Rachel was asking Lily careful questions, trying to reconstruct the path that had led her to Greenwood Cemetery. Lily answered what she could. She remembered an old shelter in Oakville, a family she'd stayed with for a short time, an older woman who took her to sell gum at traffic lights. Before that, everything was a blur. Loose smells, colors, a voice, nothing you could pin down to a name, an address, a date. "And about a house?" the doctor asked. "A place of your own?" The girl frowned. She looked at the wall. She was silent for a long time. "There's one thing," she said at last, "but I don't know if it's a memory or a dream. A wooden staircase goes up to a room, and the room has a starry ceiling, little things that glow in the dark, and there's a man's voice calling me. He says a word, but I don't know what it is. It's like a nickname, something short." "You remember the word?" "No, just the sound, and there's a song too, a woman humming softly." Upon hearing that from the doctor's mouth later, Cordell Rowe had to sit down on a step of the inner courtyard to keep from fainting. Muriel Lewitz's room, in the penthouse on Oak Avenue, had fluorescent stars stuck on the ceiling. She had stuck them herself one by one when she found out she was pregnant, and the nickname Conrad Maggio gave his daughter from her first day of life was Viv. A short word, a sweet sound. "I can't get excited," she repeated to herself. "Thousands of children hear lullabies. Thousands of rooms have starry ceilings." But her heart knew. It had always known. One of those afternoons, Lily appeared in the inner courtyard where Cordell Rowe was sitting with a book on her lap. The girl had a small notebook given by Samantha Brown and a pencil chewed at the tip. "Miss Samantha said if I wanted to draw, I could," she said. "Of course you can. Want to sit here?" Lily sat on the other end of the bench, keeping a careful distance. She opened the notebook to a blank page and started scribbling. After a while, she asked a question. "Do you have a child?" The air left Cordell Rowe's chest. "I do." "Where is she?" "I don't know. She disappeared. It's been 7 years. One afternoon we went for a walk in the park, and in a moment of carelessness she vanished. We searched a lot. We're still searching." "That's bad," she said softly. "It is." They were silent for long minutes. Lily closed the notebook and held it against her chest. "Was she like me? Did she have my face?" Cordell Rowe looked into the girl's eyes and felt that any lie there would be a betrayal. Any truth spoken too soon as well. "A little," she said finally. "You have similar things." "Is that why you brought me here?" "No, we brought you because you needed a safe place, and because we could help." "If I didn't look like her, would you have stopped to talk to me?" Cordell Rowe hesitated. She couldn't lie. "Maybe not, but that doesn't change what we're doing now." Lily didn't insist. She stood up, tucked the notebook under her arm, and went back inside the house. That night, when Cordell Rowe told everything to Conrad Maggio in the car, he gripped the steering wheel tightly. "We're doing everything wrong," she said. "She knows, she feels it." "It's not like that," Conrad replied. "We want to take care of her, that's true. And it's also true that she could be Muriel Lewitz. Both things fit together. They fit for us, they don't fit for her." Conrad thought for a long time. "I'll schedule the DNA test tomorrow," he said. "We need an answer." In the days that followed, Lily began to loosen up a little. Not much. Just enough to ask Cordell Rowe to read her a chapter from a children's book, enough to let Conrad Maggio fix the rusty bicycle, replacing the inner tubes, greasing the chain, adjusting the handlebars. When Conrad showed her the finished bike with a new seat and a shiny bell on the handlebars, the girl's eyes sparkled for a second. It was a short second. She withdrew the sparkle almost immediately. "It looks nice," she said. "Thank you." "You're welcome." One of those afternoons, Lily started humming while helping Ivy, the shelter's cook, wash the lettuce leaves. It wasn't a song from the radio. It was an old lullaby, with 2 repeated notes, a simple melody with Portuguese lyrics about a little star, about sleep, about a little boat. Cordell Rowe, who was passing through the hallway, stopped walking. Her blood went cold. That lullaby. That same lullaby. She sang it to Muriel Leibowitz every night. It was an adaptation her grandmother had taught her, nearly forgotten, one she thought was only from their family. "Ivy," she called softly when she found the cook alone later. "Where did Lily learn that song?" "I don't know, Cordell. She hums it by herself. I never asked." Cordell leaned against the doorframe and cried for the first time without holding back. Then she wiped her face, took a deep breath, and went home. That night, in the apartment on Oak Avenue, she stood in front of the closed door of Muriel Leibwitz's old room. She hadn't opened that room in 7 years. The fluorescent stars were still stuck to the ceiling on the other side of the door, waiting for a sleep that had never come. She put her hand on the doorknob. She didn't turn it, not yet. She went to the living room and sat beside Conrad. "Schedule the test for tomorrow," she asked, "and also open up the possibility of us requesting temporary custody, if she needs it, if she wants it." Conrad closed his laptop and looked at her. "Are you sure we can handle the result, whatever it is?" "I can handle the result. What I can't handle anymore is this doubt, and what I can't handle is imagining that girl going back to the streets." Conrad nodded. He picked up his phone and texted the doctor friend who would perform the test discreetly. He pressed send. On the other side of the city, in a corner apartment in Garden City, a man with grey hair and cold eyes received a message on his cell phone. It wasn't Conrad who sent it. It was a hired person, a shadow within the public system, someone who listened, who saw, who reported. The man read the message twice. Then he put the phone in his robe pocket, walked to the window and looked down at River Road below, the car headlights like a river of light. He smiled faintly. Then he picked up the landline and dialed a number. "We need to talk," he said to the listener. "It's about something we thought was settled, and it isn't." The test was done with all possible discretion on a Friday morning, at the office of an old doctor friend of Conrad's, Edwina Nicholas. The collection took less than 10 minutes. Lily just opened her mouth for a long cotton swab, frowned at the bitter taste of the cotton, and laboriously signed a paper that Samantha Brown read aloud to her. "How many days until we get the result?" Conrad asked. "About 5 business days. I'm requesting it as urgent." During that interval, time turned into molasses. Each hour took 3. Cordell started sleeping poorly again, like 7 years before, when she spent hours staring at the ceiling, imagining where Muriel Leibowitz was. Conrad, quieter than ever, buried himself in work to avoid thinking. Lily, oblivious to the couple's anguish, gradually began to feel at home at the shelter. She made friends with a slightly younger girl named Priscilla, who followed her around like a duckling. She learned from Ivy how to handle a rice pot. She asked Samantha Brown if she could read some books from the shelf, and received a smile and a list in response. One afternoon, the call came from Edwina Nicholas. "Conrad Maggio," he said, "we need to talk, in person." The tone was enough to make his heart sink. He left the office immediately and stopped by the shelter to pick up Cordell Rowe. They went together to the office on Main Street. "I'll be direct," the doctor said. "The result is ambiguous." "What do you mean, ambiguous?" Cordell Rowe asked, wringing her hands. "The report indicates a high probability of kinship. Very high. But there's an inconsistency that prevents definitive confirmation. The comparative material we used is from the old file, from Muriel Leibowitz's disappearance case, and there are signs that the material may have been compromised at some point between collection and storage, contamination, or in the worst-case scenario, deliberate tampering." "What do you mean, tampering?" Conrad Maggio repeated, incredulous. I'm not asserting anything. I'm just saying the markers don't match as they should. It's very close, but not enough to sign off on. There's a second thing, even stranger. What? Dr. Rachel sent along the documentation that Lily carries with her. The date of birth in her records doesn't match Muriel Lewitz's date of birth. It's a difference of almost a year. That could be a registration error, Cordell Rowe said with hope clinging to her voice. It could. Probably it is. But along with that, an old registration from a shelter in Ferris also turned up, which Lily supposedly came from. According to that record, she was handed over by a woman who identified herself as the grandmother, saying the parents had disappeared. The woman never returned, and the record points to a different birthplace, a city in the interior of Paraná. Cordell Rowe put her hand over her mouth. Conrad Maggio ran his hand over his face. In other words, he said, we're looking at a complete portrait. A portrait built to eliminate any possibility that Lily is our daughter. I don't know if that's it, Edwina replied. But the portrait exists, and it has holes, many holes. The question now is, who glued this portrait together? The couple left the office with heavy hearts. In the car, Conrad Maggio drove in silence for a while before speaking. Someone doesn't want us to find her. Someone is tampering with the papers, and if they tampered a long time ago. Or we're seeing a conspiracy where there isn't one, Cordell Rowe murmured. Or we're so desperate that we're trying to find meaning in anything. You yourself told me yesterday that the song she sings is our song, and the details, the stars, the male voice. I know, but I need to remind myself that the mind deceives, that 7 years of pain deceives, that I've seen Muriel Lewitz in other girls before. Conrad Maggio nodded. It was true. In the early years, Cordell Rowe would stop at school doors, follow children in malls, approach strange women to ask if that was their daughter. It was in this moment of vulnerability that Philippa Straka reappeared in their lives. He called the day after the consultation with Edwina, as if the universe had arranged it. Conrad Maggio answered in the middle of a meeting and was surprised to hear the old, warm, slightly hoarse voice of the former partner. Con, my brother, long time no see, Philippa said. I'm back in New York after 2 years in Portugal, and I heard about something very serious. I need to see you. How did you find out? You know how it is. People talk. I still have half a dozen contacts who worked with me at foundations. One of them told me that you and Cordell Rowe found a girl who might be Muriel Lewitz. My God, Con. If it's true, it's the miracle of our lives. I want to help. I need to help. Conrad hesitated for a second. Part of him remembered how present Philippa had been in the first months after Muriel's disappearance. She had paid for private detectives, hired lawyers, shown up at dinners in the apartment with bottles of wine no one drank. Philippa had always been Conrad's extended family, practically a sister. Come over for dinner tonight, Conrad said. Philippa arrived promptly with a bottle of red wine and a bouquet of white lilies. Cordell received her with a long hug, the kind of hug you only give to someone who has witnessed the worst hours of your life. She was grayer than last time, thinner too. She still wore the same expensive perfume, the same crooked smile, the same light eyes that always hid well what was going on behind them. During dinner they told everything, about the meeting at the cemetery, about the shelter, about the ambiguous test, about the suspicious documents. Philippa listened with an expression of pain and tenderness on her face. She asked for details, noted down names in a leather notebook she took from her pocket. Leave it with me, she said at the end. I'll put the best lawyers on it. I'll put 2 private investigators I trust. We're going to dismantle every piece of this. If Muriel is there, Con, we'll prove it. And if she isn't, we'll protect this girl no matter what. You're not going to carry this alone again, not as long as I'm around. Conrad thanked her with a lump in his throat. Cordell, beside him, took the old friend's hand and squeezed it. You're part of our family, Philippa. I always have been, she said. Over the next 2 weeks, Philippa threw herself into the case. She arrived at Conrad's office every morning with folders of documents, scheduled calls, preliminary reports from the investigators. She suggested that Lily be temporarily transferred to a foster home in Meadows, where she knew the director. Here in New York, too many people know, she argued. If the press gets hold of this case, it turns into a circus, and then the girl suffers. In Meadows, she'll be protected. Samantha, when she heard, disagreed immediately. It's not a good idea to move her now, the coordinator said. She's starting to form a bond here. I agree with Samantha, Cordell said. Philippa opened her hand in a conciliatory gesture. Okay, you know better. She also suggested that Conrad be cautious with the DNA test. This ambiguous result can be explained by many things. Coincidences exist. Similar girls exist. We shouldn't feed that idea too much. If Lily isn't Muriel, we're going to have to do the hardest thing, which is to accept it. You understand, Con? I understand, he said. But something in those conversations began to bother Conrad. Philippa always spoke with excessive patience, a didactic calm, as if trying to plant an idea. She asked too many questions about what Lily remembered, whether she had ever mentioned someplace, whether she had drawn something. Questions that didn't seem like those of a friend. They seemed like those of someone taking measures. One of those mornings, Philippa arrived with a brown envelope. I found something, she said. I don't know if it will help you, but I thought I needed to show you. One of my investigators found the record of a family that had a missing girl in 2015 in the interior of Colorado. The girl's name was Lily Aparecida. She had a mark on her wrist. Birth date matches the one on the document. Conrad opened the envelope. There was an old photo, somewhat faded, of a girl about 4 years old, with short hair and a floral dress. The face was round. Nothing, absolutely nothing, looked like Lily. This is a completely different girl, Philippa. I know it seems that way, but at 4 or 5 years old, faces change a lot. I wanted you to hold on to that possibility too, not to rule it out. Conrad placed the envelope on the table and stared at the old friend. Philippa, you didn't come here to help me find Muriel Llewellyn. You came here to convince me that Lily is not. Philippa laughed, an uncomfortable laugh, and ran a hand through her hair. What an exaggeration, Con. You're tired. Go rest. Tomorrow we'll talk. She left. Conrad stood still in the room, looking at the envelope. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. And for the first time in many years, he began to think of Philippa not as a sister, but as a stranger he thought he knew. That same afternoon at the shelter, an unknown woman arrived asking to speak with the director. She carried a folder full of photographs and said she recognized the girl Lily as her missing niece. Samantha received the woman with suspicion, but politely. At the end of the conversation, she called Conrad with a voice he had never heard before. You need to come here now, she said. This thing is getting bigger than we imagined. Conrad arrived at the shelter in 20 minutes, running through the downtown streets. Cordell, alerted by message, met him at the door. The two entered Samantha's office together, where a woman in her 40s was waiting, seated in an upholstered chair. She wore a navy blue blazer over a white blouse, brown lipstick on thin lips, and held a small purse on her lap, clasped with both hands. Brown hair in a low ponytail, glasses with discreet frames. Nothing about her drew attention. It was precisely this care not to draw attention that Conrad, trained for years observing people in meetings, noticed immediately. Good morning, she said when she saw them enter. My name is Marissa. I am Isadora's aunt, of the girl you are calling Lily. Isadora, Cordell repeated. Isadora Kimura, daughter of my sister Beatrice. She disappeared when she was about 5 years old. My sister got involved with a terrible man, a person who ran away with the girl after legal disputes. We've been searching for many years, and now, through a contact my husband has in the system, we discovered that a compatible girl appeared at a shelter here in New York. She opened the folder. There were photographs, many photographs. A girl of 4, 5 years old playing in a yard with a dog. The same girl at a birthday party with a party hat. Then documents, birth certificate, old ID, police report of the disappearance. Everything apparently in order, everything apparently legitimate. Samantha looked at the papers one by one, her face closed. Cordell picked up a photograph and looked at it for a long time. The girl in the photo did have a resemblance to Lily, but it was the kind of resemblance any 5-year-old girl could have. There was no mark on the wrist in any of the photos because, according to Marissa, the mark on the wrist was a recent thing, probably a scar from a burn on the street. I really want to see Isadora, Marissa said. Just from a distance, just to confirm, then we'll contact the authorities. Samantha replied with gentle firmness. You won't see anyone today. There is a protocol, there are exams. Nothing here is done by individual will. Of course, Marissa said. I just wanted to get ahead. My sister is very ill. She lives in Fairview. She can't come today. Conrad crossed his arms. Do you know the name of the grandmother who handed the girl over at the shelter in Ferris? Marissa blinked. What shelter? The shelter in Ferris. That's where she came from, according to the records. Marissa consulted a paper in the folder. Ah, yes, it was my mother, probably. She was desperate. Your mother? Yes. Conrad smiled slightly, a smile that was not sympathetic. He stood up. I'll ask Dr. Rachel to come here and have you give a formal statement with her. Marissa narrowed her eyes for a moment. Then she recomposed her polite smile. Perfect, that's exactly what I want. Samantha Brown asked Marissa to wait in the waiting room. As soon as she left, Conrad Maggio pulled Samantha and Cordell Rowe into the hallway. She's lying, he said, from start to finish. Her answers are rehearsed. She blinks when she has to make things up. And she didn't know the name of the shelter until she looked at the paper. Cordell Rowe was trembling. And the documents, Con. The documents seem real. Paper is the easiest thing to forge in Brazil, he replied. If someone is orchestrating this story, there are people with money, with connections, with time. Paper is the least of our problems. Samantha Brown nodded. I'll request an urgent verification of the documents. Meanwhile, I'll increase Lily's protection inside. No outside visits. Everyone agreed. Marissa was interviewed by Dr. Rachel in a private room. She repeated the same testimony. She promised to return with her sick sister next week. She left her phone numbers, left with a cold cordiality. Conrad spent the afternoon in the office, rummaging through old files. He called 2 journalist friends without going into details, just asking about cases of minors being contested by fake families. He heard stories that made his blood run cold, stories of children being passed from hand to hand like merchandise in a silent circuit that operated with bought documents, distracted judges, rural shelters without oversight. At night when he got home, Conrad opened the old filing cabinet he kept in the apartment office. He took out the box with all the documents from the investigation into Muriel Leilwitz's disappearance. 7 years of pain concentrated in a cardboard box. Photos of the girl, copies of police reports, testimonies, and at the bottom of the box a document he had forgotten, a list of contacts that he and Cordell kept at the time of who they could count on, who had helped. Philippa Stracke's name was at the top, with an asterisk, handwritten by Conrad himself, an asterisk meaning a person present at every step. He spent the night reading. At the shelter, meanwhile, Lily suffered in silence. Samantha had asked that the girl not be told about Marissa, but the commotion that afternoon and the unusual door locks left her confused. She felt that something was wrong, and at night, when Cordell came to say goodnight, the girl brought up the subject. You seem different today, she said. Oh, it's just tiredness, honey. You lie badly. Someone came to get me today. No one will take you against your will, Cordell said. That I promise. Your will, Lily repeated. And what if my will is to be alone? Cordell swallowed the answer she wanted to give. Do you want to be alone? I don't know what I want. I never knew. Before I wanted food, then I wanted to sleep in a covered place. Now I have both. I don't know what I want. Cordell sat on the edge of the bed. No one needs to know what they want at 11. 12. 12? Lily turned to the wall. You're here today because the woman came. No, I'm here because I wanted to see you. Lily didn't answer. She closed her eyes. That dawn she had a dream. Or maybe it wasn't a dream, it was a memory. She was on a wooden staircase, climbing slowly. She reached a room where the ceiling had stars that glowed in the dark. A woman was waiting for her, sitting on the bed, and sang that lullaby about the little boat. The woman's face was blurry. Lily approached. She really wanted to see the face. And at the moment she almost could. A strong male voice called her from below, called her by a name she couldn't form in her mouth, and the woman got up and ran out. Lily woke up sobbing. Samantha, who was sleeping in the room next door, came running. She found the girl hugging her knees, trembling. She sat beside her without touching, waiting. Lily looked up. Her eyes were red. I want to draw something, she said. Now, before I forget. Samantha brought the notebook and pencils. Lily opened it to the first blank page and started drawing quickly. with firm strokes, no elegance. She drew a house, an ordinary house, triangular roof, 2 windows, 1 door. In front of the house, a gate, and the gate was blue, a strong blue, cobalt blue, coloured in haste. Next to the gate, attached to the wall, a thing shaped like a bird. A big bird, wings spread, making it look like it was made of metal. "What is it?" Samantha asked. "It's the house," Lily answered. "It's a house I know, and that bird is stuck to the wall. It's made of iron. There's something inside." "Something inside?" "Yes, I don't know what, but there is." Samantha, her heart racing, took a picture of the drawing with her phone and sent it immediately to Conrad, who was still awake in the apartment living room, the box of documents open on the coffee table. He looked at the drawing and felt the world stop. He recognized the gate. He recognized the house. He recognized the bird. It was Philippa Stracker's old country house in Riverside, a house he had visited many times with Cordell and Muriel before the disappearance. Philippa had bought the property saying it was a weekend retreat. There was a cobalt blue gate at the entrance, a quirk she called My Portal. And yes, there was a metal bird attached to the side wall, a cormorant. Philippa had had it custom made, said it was art, said it was a gift from an artist friend. After Muriel's disappearance, the Stracker family had moved out of the house, claiming too many memories. Philippa had rented the property. After that, Conrad had never gone back. He woke Cordell, phone in hand. "Cordell, get up. We need to head to Riverside first thing tomorrow." "What happened?" He showed her the girl's drawing. Cordell recognized it immediately. Philippa's house. Philippa's house. They looked at each other. They didn't need to say anything else. Something without a name yet, something very dark, something Cordell had never dared to think in 7 years, began to take shape in the silent living room of that apartment on Oak Avenue. Across the city, in an apartment overlooking River Road, Philippa Stracker received another message on her phone. She read it carefully. Then she looked at the bottle of whiskey on the coffee table. She stood up without drinking. She went to the window. She stood there for a long time, motionless, as the New York sky began to lighten on the horizon. Conrad and Cordell left New York at 5 in the morning. The road to Riverside was nearly empty, low mist covering the sugarcane fields along the highway. Conrad drove in silence. Cordell, beside him, stared at the horizon, Lily's drawing clutched in her hands. Before leaving, Conrad had called a lawyer friend, Frederick. He told him everything: the ambiguous test, the suspicious documents, Marissa's appearance, the drawing, Philippa. Frederick listened in silence, then said just one sentence. "Don't do anything without me by your side. I'm leaving to meet you in Riverside." Conrad thanked him. He blocked Philippa's number from his phone. Not for the obvious reason, but because he didn't want to receive a call from her at that moment. He needed silence to think. They arrived at the property around 7 in the morning. The cobalt blue gate had been replaced by a modern black wrought iron gate, a real estate sign hung from the bars, "House for rent." The property looked like it had been empty for a while. The garden leaves were overgrown. The blinds were shut. Conrad got out of the car. Cordell lingered a moment looking at the gate. 7 years before, she had passed through it many times, with Muriel sleeping in the back seat after a long lunch. She had laughed inside that property. She had eaten feijoada on a sunny Saturday. She had watched Philippa spin Muriel in her arms among the bougainvillea beds, the child laughing, the sky blue. The blue gate had been replaced, but the memory that no one had replaced. She got out of the car. Conrad had called the realtor earlier, claiming interest in renting the property. A man arrived soon after, drowsy, keys in hand. When informed that Frederick was arriving with a team, the realtor turned pale, but after a call to the owner of the agency, he allowed them in. They entered the house. It was empty. No furniture. Smell of stale air. Dust on the floor. Cordell walked through the living room with her heart racing, touching the walls, trying to remember. The kitchen still had the same blue cabinet she remembered. The backyard in the back still had the same small round pool, now with greenish water. And there on the side wall, at the exact spot of Lily's drawing, was the metal bird. A cormorant with open wings, large, attached to the wall by 2 iron rods. Conrad approached carefully. He ran his hand over the cold surface. The metal was rusted at the edges, but still solid. He tried to move it. It was firm. Frederick arrived 10 minutes later with a team of 2 people, a private investigator named Roger and a retired forensic expert named Assis. They brought tools, cameras, collection kits. Frederick greeted Conrad and Cordell with a quick hug. "Where's the object?" he asked. "Over there." Roger and Assis analyzed the bird for several minutes. Then they began to disassemble it patiently, removing hidden screws, marking spots with chalk. The realtor watched everything in astonishment. Frederick explained that there was a judge's authorization, an urgent document he had obtained at dawn. After nearly an hour of work, the bird was removed whole from the wool. There was a cavity inside it, a cavity sealed with a piece of sheet metal. Assis opened the sheet metal with a wrench. Everyone gathered around. Inside was a package wrapped in thick plastic, protected by layers of adhesive tape. Next to it, a small metal box, the size of a matchbox. Frederick opened the box first, wearing gloves. It was a bracelet, a small child's silver bracelet with colored beads and a tiny plate engraved with very small letters, the name, Muriel Luewitz. Cordell put her hand over her mouth. Conrad, who was a reserved man, sat down on the floor. He didn't faint. He didn't cry loudly. He just sat and cried softly, silently, his face in his hands. That bracelet had been given to Muriel Luewitz on her 4th birthday by an elderly aunt. She wore it every day. She had it with her on the day of the disappearance. In the official records, it was listed as lost. The package wrapped in plastic was opened next. There were documents, many documents, old shelter files with stamps that weren't authentic, copies of birth certificates with crude alterations in ballpoint pen, photos of Lily at various ages, some in unknown places, some in other shelters. A plastic folder with reports of the child's relocation, dated from different years, with pencil notes. And, at the very end, 3 names of people that appeared repeatedly throughout all the documents. 3 names clearly linked to a network of manipulation of minor records. One of the names was Marissa. Another was a municipal public servant, identified only by initials. And the third was the administrative coordinator of a social foundation, chaired for many years by Philippa Stracker. Frederick looked at Conrad with a serious face. "This is enough to open a big case, very big. And Philippa Stracker, even if indirectly, is connected from all sides." Conrad stood up, his legs trembling. "He took my daughter," he said softly, more to himself than to others. "He took Muriel Luewitz. He was with us in the search. He insisted. He cried with us. And he took her." "We still don't know the reason," Frederick said. "It will be investigated. We'll probably find out. For now, what matters is there's proof that Lily is your daughter, and there's proof that this whole story was constructed so that you would never find her again." Cordell began to cry silently. Then, little by little, she started to laugh as well. A short, broken, incredulous laugh. "She was our daughter," she repeated. "She is our daughter. I knew it. I knew it." Conrad picked up his phone. He was going to call the shelter. But before he could unlock the screen, his phone rang. It was Samantha. "Conrad," she said. With a voice he never wanted to hear again, Lily ran away. "What do you mean?" "She left in the early morning. She must have heard something. I don't know what happened. I was asleep. When we woke up today to make coffee, she wasn't in her room. Her bike was gone too." "How did she get out?" "Through the back bathroom window. She must have planned it. No one heard. I don't know how long ago." Conrad leaned against a wall. "We're coming there now," he said. "Call the police. Put out an alert." "I already did that. Everything's already in motion. But Conrad, I have to tell you something. Last night, Priscilla told me that Lily overheard a conversation between you and Cordell in the courtyard when you were here last week. A conversation in which Cordell said she only approached the girl because she believed she was Muriel Luewitz." Conrad closed his eyes. They had indeed talked about that in a moment of weakness, without realizing a window was open. "She knows. She knows." Conrad ended the call. Frederick, beside him, understood everything from his face. "You have to go back. Leave us to finish here. You go find the girl." Conrad just nodded. The way back was even quieter than the way there. The rain, which had been falling in Riverside as a fine drizzle, thickened near New York. The water tanks darkened. The windshield wipers could barely keep up. Meanwhile, in the city, Lily pedaled aimlessly along the avenues. The bike fixed by Conrad, though new on the inside, still had a rusty frame on the outside. She wore a loose hooded jacket, soaking wet. She passed under bridges, around corners, through traffic lights, drawing curious looks from drivers who saw her from afar. She didn't know exactly where she was going. She only knew she needed to go back to a place of her own, a place where she was just herself and not someone's daughter, a place where no one wanted to turn her into someone else. There was only one such place in her world, Greenwood Cemetery. She pedaled for hours. She fell twice because of the rain. She hurt her knee. She kept going. She reached the main gate of the cemetery around noon, soaking wet, shivering, hungry, sleepy. The gate was open. There were few visitors. A gravedigger knew the girl from other days, saw her passing by, found it strange, but said nothing. She pedaled to the side area, where the tombstones were older. She hid the bike behind an abandoned mausoleum. She sat down on the wet stone floor. She leaned her head against the cold wall. She closed her eyes. Meanwhile, at the apartment on Oak Avenue, Conrad received a call. Frederick was on the other end of the line with urgency in his voice. "Conrad, the operation is happening today. The federal police decided to move it up. They're going to raid Philippa Stracker's house late this afternoon. You need to be there as the affected party to identify evidence." Conrad ran a hand over his face. "Frederick, Lily is gone." He already knew that. He also knew that Conrad would have to decide. And he also knew that was a decision no one could make for him. "Choose," he said. Conrad looked at Cordell, who was answering her phone at the same time, trying to call friends, trying to find out if anyone had seen the girl. Cordell, noticing he was looking at her, looked up and nodded, without him having said a word. "Go find her," she said. "Go, I'll wait for news from both of you. I'll call everyone here." Conrad took a deep breath. He grabbed his car keys. "Frederick," he said into the phone, "I'm not coming. I'm going after her. I already know where she is." "How do you know?" "Because deep down I've known that girl for 12 years, he said. "It just took me a while to understand." He hung up. Before he walked out the door, Cordell grabbed his arm. "Bring our daughter back," she said. "The way she wants to come back. No test, no proof, no words, just our daughter." He kissed her forehead and walked out the door. The rain was punishing the city when Conrad parked the car in front of Greenwood Cemetery. Puddles reflected the tired light of street lamps that were already turning on even before dark. He stepped out of the car without an umbrella, let his jacket soak, and crossed the gate. The gravedigger, who recognized him from the days the family visited Asia Miller's tombstone, nodded. "She's inside, sir," he said, "near the corner of the old mausoleums." "Thank you." Conrad walked through the aisles. It was the same path he and Cordell had taken weeks before, the same tombstones, the same angels with grimy wings. But now everything carried a different meaning. He found the bicycle first, hidden behind a mausoleum of Portuguese stone, leaned against it, half lying, wheels caked with mud, the shiny bell a little crooked. He rounded the mausoleum, and there, sitting with her back against a low wall, knees hugged to her chest and jacket soaked, she was. Lily raised her head slowly. She wasn't surprised to see him, didn't make a move to run. She just looked at him with a colorless expression, like someone who had spent too long crying and had no energy left for anything. "I knew it would be you," she said. "You did. Only you." "Why?" "Because Cordell is afraid of losing me. She wouldn't come. She'd wait for news, not you. You come." Conrad took off his soaked jacket and draped it over her shoulders without a word. Then he sat down on the wet stone floor beside her, leaving a small space between them. The rain soaked his hair in seconds. He didn't mind. They stayed silent for a long time, the sound of rain hitting the tombstones, running off the mausoleums, forming little waterfalls at the edges of the metal roofs. "You knew," she said at last. "Knew what?" "That I heard. That I know why you came to talk to me." He took a moment to answer. "I found out today from Samantha. I didn't know before. I wish I hadn't listened, but I did. I'm so sorry, Lily." She furrowed her brow that way of Muriel's. And he felt again, now with all the proof in the world, that that girl was his daughter. But he realized, at the same time, that there, at that moment, saying that would be the wrongest thing. He swallowed the certainty. "I'm not her," she said. "I know you think I am. I'm not. I'm me." "I know. You don't know." Conrad took a deep breath. "Lily, listen. I need to tell you something. When Cordell and I first saw you here, we froze, not because we're good people, we're hurt people, really hurt. We lost a girl. And when we looked at you, we saw her. Yes, that's how it started. Lily didn't look at him. But something happened afterwards, he went on. Don't ask me what day, I don't know. But something changed. We stopped looking at you looking for her. We started looking at you looking for you. Cordell cries when you drink warm milk. Did you know that? Cordell cries, but she doesn't let you see. Lily squeezed her eyes shut. And if the test had come back wrong, she said softly, if it showed I'm not, what would you do? Conrad thought. He couldn't lie. And he realized in the middle of the thought that he also didn't need to lie, that that was his true answer. We would have stayed. Cordell would have kept bringing you cake. I would have kept fixing bikes. We would have asked you to live with us if you wanted. And if you didn't want that, we would have asked you to let us be your family however it was possible. You would decide, not us. You're saying that because you found out I'm her. Lily, if you want, right now we grab your bike, we go to Mr. James's City Bakery, we eat cheese puffs, then we go to Samantha Brown's. And if at any point you want to leave and never see me again, you tell me and I'll stop. You're not forced to be anyone's daughter. You're you. Lily started crying without a sound. She sniffled. She wiped her jacket sleeve across her face. Conrad didn't touch her. He just stood there, soaked, waiting. Then, without warning, she rested her head on his shoulder. That was it. He closed his eyes and thanked God, his mother, something bigger for that moment. He didn't hug her. He didn't say anything. He let the weight of her head stay there. He knew that was the hug possible at that moment. After another moment, Lily spoke. I want to go to Cordell. Let's go. He stood up. He reached out his hand. She took it. He helped her up. They went to the bike together. He put the bike in the trunk of the car. She got into the front seat in Cordell's spot, with the seatbelt that Conrad tightened as if he were buckling a 2-year-old. On the way back, the rain began to let up. Lily looked out the window. Conrad turned on the radio low to a classical music station. She looked at him. Do you remember my nickname? She asked. He was so startled by the question, he almost stopped the car in the middle of the avenue. Viv, he said. She was quiet. Viv, she repeated softly. Viv, Viv, it's in my head. Conrad didn't say anything else. He let the girl repeat the word as many times as she needed. When they reached the apartment, Cordell opened the door before the elevator even arrived. Her eyes were red. A journalist friend had called, telling her what was happening in another part of the city, a police operation. Philippa Stracker taken in for questioning. The folder of documents being analyzed. Marissa arrested while trying to board a flight to the northeast, with tickets bought with cash. The whole network starting to come apart. But Cordell didn't care about any of that at that moment. She only looked at Lily, soaked, Conrad's coat over her shoulders, hair plastered to her face, and opened her arms in a small gesture, demanding nothing. Lily looked at her. Then, very slowly, she crossed the hallway and buried her face in Cordell's shoulder. Cordell didn't cry immediately. She put her hand on the back of the girl's neck and just closed her eyes. She stayed like that for a long time. Then, yes, she started to cry. A quiet cry. A cry of 7 years held back. That night, Lily slept in one of the guest rooms in dry clothes after a hot bath and a bowl of soup. Conrad and Cordell sat in the hallway on the other side of the door, even after she had fallen asleep. They were afraid to wake up and find it had all been a dream. In the following days, a lot happened. A new DNA test was done under the judge's supervision, with material collected from scratch, with no risk of contamination. The results came back in 10 days. Full confirmation. Lily was Muriel Leibowitz. Philippa Stracker was indicted. The investigation slowly uncovered the reasons behind the child's removal 7 years earlier. They were motives linked to corporate disputes, old blackmail, a complicated web involving money, resentment, and a dark side of Philippa that no one had imagined. He, whom the family had always treated as a brother, had been the author of the tragedy. The supposed relative, Marissa, was also identified as part of the network. The confirmation of the exam didn't solve everything immediately. Lily, now officially Muriel Leibowitz, didn't suddenly return to being the 5-year-old girl that Cordell had kept in her memory. She continued being Lily. She remained distrustful. She continued sleeping with the light on. Gradually, the psychologist Vanessa began to see her, with sessions twice a week. She was in no hurry about anything. Rebuilding a child is not done in a day. She took a long time to call Conrad and Cordell Dad and Mom. She called them by their names. One day, in the middle of a conversation, she said Dad without realizing it. Then she got scared, blushed, apologized. Conrad just laughed and said it was fine, that she could call them whatever she wanted. Muriel Luailwitz's old room was opened for the first time. The fluorescent stars of the starry ceiling were still stuck on the ceiling. Lily entered, looked up, was silent for a long time. Then she said she wanted to paint the walls a new color. Yellow, she said. Strong yellow. Like a sunflower. Yellow it will be, Cordell replied. Months passed. Lily began to study at home with private tutors for a while, until she felt ready for a regular school. She met up with Priscilla from the shelter. They became friends. On a Saturday afternoon, 3 months after everything, Lily was sitting on the living room sofa of the apartment, between Conrad and Cordell, watching a cartoon. She held both their hands, one in each hand, not squeezing too hard, not letting go. Every now and then she laughed at a scene, commented on something, went back to watching the screen. Conrad exchanged a look with Cordell over the girl's head. They said nothing, they didn't need to. There was still a long way ahead. But in that living room on that Saturday, the Maggio family wasn't trying to recover exactly what was before. They were learning to know each other again, respecting the marks of the past, and building a relationship based on patience, security, and choice. The girl's choice above all. Because in the end, what Conrad and Cordell learned was that truly loving is letting go. Letting the loved one go if they want to go. Trusting that, if they return, it will be of their own will. That imposed love is not love. Lily came back. She came back because she wanted to. She came back because she chose to. And when months later she climbed the stairs of the building with a backpack full of books and said to the doorman a simple, "Good afternoon, I'm going home," the two doormen realized, without really knowing why, that that word home carried a weight that only true things carry. End of the story. Dear listeners, we hope that the story of Conrad, Cordell, and Lily has touched your hearts. Just as the rusty bicycle was fixed piece by piece, each family has its own process of reconstruction, and around here we believe that everyone deserves to be chosen for who they are, not for who they represent. If you've made it this far, leave that heart on the like. Write in the comments the moment of the story that moved you the most. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories we bring every day. Over on the left side there is a special playlist with other narratives that will grip you from start to finish, just like this one did. We'll be waiting for you there, on the other side of the blue gate.